The 1904 St. Louis Olympic Games were less an international sporting event and more a chaotically organized fever dream. Held in tandem with that year's World's Fair, the Olympics featured a notorious marathon, where one runner nearly died of dust inhalation, another hitched a ride to the finish line, and a third, the ultimate winner, was given rat poison, raw eggs, and bourbon as performance enhancers. Foreign athletes got lost. Organizers deliberately withheld water. It was sweltering, chaotic, and deeply American in all of the worst ways. Survival was the real and arguably only gold medal. In this almost certainly not companion series, we examine each episode's origins, production process, behind the scenes, personal thoughts, and most likely go off on some tangents, in spite of our best efforts. In this episode, we examine Greek to Me, the 1904 Olympic Marathon catastrophe. I'm Layla Lawrence.
And I'm Dan Lauer.
And this is Possibly Not. So I have received word from Dan's people that he has a disclaimer to give before we start this episode. So, Dan, the floor is yours.
Sports are dumb. They're dumb.
Is that it? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I like watching sports because it's riveting because at the beginning the score is 0, and then depending on the sport, one of the two teams will move a ball from one location to another location.
Oh
and
my
either
God.
get a point or not. And then at the end, one of the two teams will win or tie, and then nothing's resolved at all. So
It's called a draw. Thank you very much.
and then I like NASCAR too, where they go they drive real fast in a circle or an oval. I'm not a sports fan. The point of that is that this episode was your idea because I'm completely disconnected from the world of sports. And
I'm not a sports fan, but I can get really aggressive when it comes to sports. I'm not like a sports person, but if it's something that I'm invested in, I get like, I can't even describe. Like, I've had people like just cover my mouth and like wrangle me out of a bar because I've been like screaming about
But
something.
you're not a sports fan.
But I'm not a sports fan. But if I have something I'm passionate about, so like I'm really passionate. Well, I was really passionate about the Orlando Magic back in the day.
But not a sports fan.
But not an overall sports fan.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Orlando Magic, and then Formula One. I grew up with Formula One, so I've always been passionate about Formula One, and that was always something like when I was going on dates with guys in the 19th century. Not 19th century, 20th century.
Nope.
What is it? In the 1900s? No. In the
oh my
in the
God,
early 2000s.
You're a vampire. The 19th century.
The 19th century, no. When I was going on dates with guys in like the early 2000s, the early noughties, as people like to say.
Nobody says that.
That might be an English thing. But the guys would always, I don't know why this is like a date question, but there would always be the like, oh, are you into sports? Maybe it's like an American thing. I don't know. Like they expect me to have like a football team or something. And I would be like, no, I'm not really into sport. The only sport that I watch is Formula One. And then this was before the Formula One craze had really like settled in America. And they'd be like, oh, is that like NASCAR? And then I would be forced to just like explain it to them. And I have like already written them off in my mind. I'm just like, this is not going anywhere.
No, that's different though, right? Because it's cars going real fast.
It's cars
like
going real fast, but not in a circle. It is
a line.
Some of it is a line. There are other parts too. Shut up. Okay, listen.
Well,
anyway.
that's the other part about sports that I really like is the cult-like aggressive devotion that people have and the pride that they feel for something they didn't accomplish when their team wins.
That's true. That is a bit weird, but it feels fucking great. I will say it feels great when your team or your person or whatever wins, but the abject disappointment that you feel, that I feel every single time England loses the World Cup, it's just, it like really
Listen,
puts me in a bad mood.
I'm very passionate about things. I love my hobbies. I love, film and all. So it's just not for me. So I don't have any
Which
problem
is
with
fair
people
enough.
being obsessed with things, but it is bizarre and it's just, I don't know. I don't think I've ever watched a sporting event from beginning to end, and even when I have, I'm like, well, I mean, one of the two teams that showed up either won or didn't, and that's going to happen pretty much every time you watch one of these fucking things. And
That is
your
so true,
team
though.
is essentially either it's where you grew up or your parents' team 90% of the time. It's sort of like religion.
I was
And
just
people,
about to say it's like religion.
people have this this reaction that you're describing in yourself, despite not being a sports fan. And so, but that's to take a shit into the mouths of people who like sports just a little bit, but also to say that, um, this was not even something I never have seen, and I never watched the Olympics. I don't give a fuck about the Olympics. This was
You
your
can't even
suggestion.
appreciate, like, you don't watch. I mean, I'm not super invested in the Olympics as far as, like, from a nationalist perspective or anything like that, mostly because English people are terrible at sports. But I do watch sometimes just to be like, holy shit, like, that was incredible, just kind of to marvel at these people who do things much better than I can.
I watched the female volleyball.
I think that's for a different reason.
Nah, they're
Okay.
they're lithe and talented,
You did put a note on here on our episode notes that you said the only sport you have any interest in is cricket. Is that true, or are you making a joke?
Well, read the whole thing I typed.
The only sport I have any interest in is cricket because virtually no one can understand it and it goes on for days. The Grateful Dead concert of sports.
No,
I mean, you're not wrong. None of this is wrong. None of what you're saying is wrong. I mean, I get it. I think being super into sports it's very cult-like. It's very silly when you really think about it. But you know what? It gives us hope in these dark times.
I don't actually have any interest in cricket. The only thing there's an amazing actor for anybody listening to this who hasn't
Layla Lawrence.
Layla Lawrence.
Yes,
and
thank you.
Second only to her is Peter O'Toole, who is probably most famous for Lawrence of Arabia, but he had an incredible wit, and he has some pretty famous and notorious appearances on David Letterman on the Late Show or whatever it's called, with Late Night or whatever with David Letterman, and it became like a running joke that Letterman would try to get him to explain cricket, and he would decline, saying basically that it's like trying to learn Mandarin. Like, you either understand it or you don't.
I mean, that is also very true. It's that is also very true.
I just wanted to take a shit on both cricket and the Grateful Dead in one joke. That was the point of that. So.
It was a pretty good joke, I'm not gonna lie. It did make me laugh out loud when I read it. Oh gosh. Speaking of laughing out loud, this episode is sort of a departure from the other episodes that we have done. And as you said, I'm going to stroke my own ego here for a second. I was the one who
That's not what
came
I said.
up with this. That's not what you said, but I'm not going to say what you said because it's weird.
I'll say it.
Oh.
I asked you if you were going to suck your own tits for a while.
My parents listen to this, man.
Why?
Oh, God. Yes.
How are you speaking right now, by the way, with your nipple in your mouth?
Get fucked. Oh my God. All right. So I was the one who came to you with this concept.
Yes.
We have just kind of a page where we come up with, we can like throw at each other different episode ideas that we have. And this was one of the first ones that I had.
It's called Pitches, kids. In the business, we call it a pitch.
Pitching. Yeah, an elevator pitch. This is one of the first ones that I looked at and I was like, holy shit, this sounds absolutely ridiculous. And I know that it has been covered because we try to do stuff that doesn't have a lot of coverage. It has been covered. Yeah. But it has been covered poorly previously.
Well, you suggested
I'm comfortable
it to me.
in saying that.
Well, not only did you come to me and say, this is a ridiculous story, but you and a lot of my writing is funny. I have a dark sense of humor.
Well, you think it is.
And, oh, you bitch, get your tit out of your mouth and listen. Or has a humorous bent. I won't say it's funny.
Yes.
But I have a very dark and I would say oddly specific sense of humor. My brand of humor, I think, is what I would call odd specificity. And so you said, not only did you come to me, but said you should write this like less in a documentarian voice and write it like you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this was much more in your voice. If people are wondering, this is much more how you write normally.
And it took some convincing because I was like, well, I don't want to I wrote it. Well, I looked at it and I was like, okay, this is ridiculous. And I can't believe these things happen. And then I double checked my sources because I was like, did they actually happen? This is
Were you familiar with this story before I came to you? Because you know a lot about a lot of things. So had you ever heard of this?
Never heard of it. But so I think you sent me a Vanity Fair article that I read, which was covered very, very, just dryly. It's Vanity Fair. But I read it and then I looked it up and started researching it. And you had said not only, well, you had an uphill battle because I didn't really want to write funny. I had never I don't know. I think I sent you it was ridiculous enough that I was like, I'll give it a shot. But I was sort of like, I don't know that I was a little insecure about
I think
the
it was
script.
that you didn't think that this is what Almost Certainly Not is. Like, we've been, documentarian up until this point, and it kind of doesn't, it does fit with what we do, but it doesn't fit with what we do. So I could see why you have a little bit of trepidation with it.
Well, I was sort of inspired by, you read it, and I was like, I don't know that this is funny. I think that it's trying to be funny, which is maybe something that
I read what you wrote. Let's specify that you wrote something, didn't you? And you said,
I wrote the
script.
Think
it's trying to be funny.
I put the script together, and I was like, I think it might be funny, but it's like it's not just telling the story. It's like I feel like I can feel it attempting to be funny as opposed to just being funny, which might sound like picking gnat shit out of pepper, like pointless, trite, but it makes sense to me, and it was my concern, and you didn't agree. You said, no, it's just funny. And so we recorded.
Well, I also know the difference between when you're reading something, it comes off one way, to when you are actually voicing something out loud, it comes off a different way.
But I put my my odd specificity on. I did the research and I reorganized things and I found the things that I thought were most interesting to me. And then I remembered I thought of one, to your point, you're right in that I was like, this isn't what Almost Certainly Not is. And then I was like, well, I think that I'm kind of breaking my philosophy right there, is it's not actually anything except what we're interested in. Mm-hmm. So that's I'm off track right there. And then I thought about Stanley Kubrick, one of my favorite films of his, and I think one of his best films, is called Dr. Strangelove. And it's probably his only comedy, maybe definitely his only comedy. But what I like about the making of that film is he purchased the rights to a book called Failsafe about an accidental nuclear holocaust in the 60s. And he bought it with the intention of making a drama or thriller about it. And the structure and the details of that book and the nuclear brinksmanship in general, he thought were so absurd that it couldn't. He didn't think that it was a story that lent itself to being told as a drama. He thought it was too ridiculous to be told as a drama, and so it turned into a comedy. And I was like, all right, well, I'm basically the Stanley Kubrick of my generation. No, I was like, if he can, so I was like, well, that's maybe a good way to approach it. Is
So how was it writing in like a more comedic? How was it writing like more in your style than in a documentarian style? Was it more difficult? Was it more comfortable?
It was a little uncomfortable just because I was like still in the headspace of like, this isn't what it is. But of course, it's more comfortable because this is my voice, and like sort of like the Grateful Dead thing. I don't, if I'm like doing a joke inside of my writing, it just sort of comes out. So in something like and something like Common Sense or Betty and Barney, I might be like, I'm more restrained. Like I might have a joke that I'm like, well, that doesn't really fit the tone. I'm just like telling the story, and I mean, it's poetic and there's like lyricism to it and a rhythm.
I'm all for you leaving jokes in. I think it's hilarious.
So, but I mean, some of the things, and then we also, this is the first episode that we're including like some fucks and shits and assholes and stuff, and just
which
writing,
is how both of us talk.
Yeah, so it's more like the way that I would express myself when talking about something that's ridiculous would include those things, and I even thought we do like a Patreon version of this, and I was like, well, I'll do like an uncensored.
Yes,
I'm censoring
we do a
it for
Patreon
YouTube.
version, everyone. Just in case anyone was wondering, sign up for our Patreon. We do a Patreon version of this.
Yeah, it gets released early, and I was like, well, I'll do a just so it has a better shot on YouTube. I'll censor all the profanity, and then I'll do the uncensored one. But I actually think between the photo, like the still images style, and I actually think the censoring makes it funnier.
I agree. I think censoring anything makes it funny, because I think just the idea of censoring is just so stupid.
I just think
because you know what's being said. It's just
Yeah, I've listened to it. Like I got rid of them and I listened to it without, and I was like, everybody knows what's being said, and I think it's almost like it's like a meta commentary on the idea of censorship, where like when you say fuck, you've got everything except for the vowel.
Yeah.
So everybody knows.
And like, who are you censoring for at that point? Because people know what you're saying. So like, who are we really censoring for? Like the 10-year-old who's going to listen to that? I don't know. It's just so odd. Everybody knows these words.
I'm not even on a soapbox about that. I just think that like for whatever reason,
I will be.
I don't give a fuck.
That's my soapbox, is cursing.
But I think that like I agree. I'm against like enforced censorship, but for whatever reason, censoring any time that you use what would be considered profanity, even up to and including asshole, makes it funnier to me. So it's almost an aesthetic choice rather than a safety choice.
But if you want to hear me say arsehole as many times as you want, you can.
You just did for free. No, you just did for free. You just gave it away for free.
We should censor that.
We'll say it 3 times fast, and I'll censor all of them. Go ahead. Ready?
You say it 3 times fast in a mirror, and an arsehole just appears in front of you.
No. Say the word 3 times fast. Hold on. Everybody slow down. All right, watch this, kids, because Layla can't actually do that without an action. So, and I need to... All right. Steady. Everybody calm. Quiet on set. And whenever you're ready.
No, you have to say action.
See? Everybody told you. Action.
Awful.
There you go. Those are all bleep. So if you want to hear...
Hey!
Come to Patreon, smash that like button.
Oh, God. Smash that subscribe button. Yeah, exactly.
Come to
Leave
our
us a comment.
TikTok.
But not a comment about how Betty and Barney is real and you're an alien tinfoil hat person. Anyway, never mind. I'm getting off topic here.
This is I would say that this is really impressive, like back and forth for 2 AIs talking.
For those of you who don't, none of you will know, we were accused of being AI.
On one of these, that this was AI. The fuck is wrong with everybody? Fuck you. Fucking
I just truly,
mouth
like,
breathing.
I don't know. I feel like AIs would sound smarter. Not you necessarily, but like me. I feel.
But just like a
Come
1
on.
hour, I think that was on a 90-minute episode of extemporaneous, like,
Just absolute bullshit that we
if
talk
that
about.
was you,
Yeah, I
fuck
don't
you.
know.
Fuck you. And I'm not censoring those. You're a fucking asshole.
If you didn't know, guys, AI comments really, really get Dan. He gets really upset about those.
You could say that this episode.
You can say anything else about
Anything.
him, but don't say that he's AI.
Every one of these episodes takes me 40 fucking hours to write, record, edit, and then get out there. Anyway, sorry.
Anyway, we're gonna carry on with this because you're recovering from illness, and I don't want you to waste your voice getting upset about trolls.
I got very. Oh, there's dark energy in here now.
I know. Oh God. All right. So, let's get back into it. Were you surprised by anything while you were researching this, since this was something that you weren't familiar with? I mean, and I wasn't super familiar with it, but was there one thing that stood out to you that you were like, this can't? I mean, you did say you had to check to make sure it was real because it sounded so absurd.
I would say that all of it stood out to me. I mean, not the fact that there was an Olympic marathon or an Olympics or a marathon, or I knew the stuff about I'm not going to attempt a French accent, Coubertin, and I knew about this just from a historical perspective, the revival of the Olympics, and obviously it started since then. I knew the little tidbit about which I don't think was included really anywhere else I've seen this story, but about the reason that the marathon is the distance it is today is because of the British royal family. But all of the stuff specific to the 1904 World's Fair and the actual marathon itself, I think all of it is, I mean, yeah,
It's
sounds
all
like
insane. Like a walkthrough of a colon. Like what?
Yeah, baby incubator exhibits, the anthropology days thing.
Also, like electric chair demonstrations. Were they actively murdering people,
No.
or like
they
what?
were just?
I don't understand.
They were demonstrating how it worked, but they didn't kill anybody.
So weird.
As far as I'm aware of. I mean, who knows?
Yeah, and like the premature babies, the absolute just like racism of all of it is just absolutely maddening.
Which, like, we point out pretty hard to be fair, or maybe unfair to the point. Like, that's not that extraordinary for 1904. But the fact that
the
it was
racism,
no, that was pretty par for the course. But the institutionalization of it, and also the fact, I think what's interesting about that, it's just that sort of that thing that like nobody who's evil thinks that they're evil. Like nobody's like Darth Vader, or like they're I'm evil and that's the point. I mean, maybe
they think that
psychopaths.
they're in the right.
Yeah, so I think that probably even the people who were involved in the Anthropology Day stuff and this just horrific, like, they probably thought it was a noble pursuit to study these other cultures.
Which is so gross.
And to do it in the most horrifically exploitative way possible. So I would say, I mean, I don't know that. I mean, what stuck out to me more than anything else? I mean, the walkthrough colon thing. I got to make
the walkthrough colon to me is mad because I'm just like visualizing it. Like, was it like a Halloween Horror Nights house? Like, I just don't understand what a walkthrough colon would look like. Is it like the magic school bus? Like, what are we doing here?
It's one of the few. It's one of the few exhibits that, as far as I can tell, no photographs exist of. So I just put a diagram. I just used an old-timey looking diagram of the whole human digestive system.
Oh, I know. The rectum is timed perfectly.
Rectum damn near killed him. But I would say that, I mean, all of the specifics of it, and then I mean the thing itself, like two water stations, the hottest part of the day, an uneven track, dirt roads.
That's actually something that I want to get into a little bit later. But was there anything that you saw in your research that you had to cut for the sake of the story that you maybe like considered leaving in, or it was one of those things where you're like, there's just too much at this point. Like I can't put everything in there.
No. I think I mean, there's other details of stuff that were like not as interesting, or I mean, I chose the worst stuff.
Yeah. But
there
were probably other things that you were just kind of,
but like
were just
minor,
like, wow, that's not
stupid America 1904. I mean, and then trivial things just because they were funny, like the William McKinley butter sculptures. I mean, that's not that,
so
but that's just stupid, but funny.
Was he president at the time? What is the William McKinley thing?
Yeah, he was president at the time.
He was president at the time. I'm really good at this.
And I guess they just that was a thing that people did. Maybe Missouri.
Maybe we should do
like
that now. Maybe that should be a thing now. Let's do butter sculptures of Donald J. Trump.
I think it's redundant. I think he's a living butter sculpture. No. It's like you don't take a piece of shit and make a piece of shit that looks like it. You already have a piece of shit.
Oh, so, and that's as political as we'll get here.
You're wasting time.
Yeah.
And I didn't cut anything for like content, like all the horrific stuff I left in, but there was there are images that exist of one part of this which I decided I didn't want to be involved in displaying. So instead,
yes,
I just say nope, and they exist. So have a party.
Do you want to say what that is, or do you want people to have to go back? It's part of the anthropology days, and it is, it's just gross.
I'm not going to say it on the off chance that somebody is listening to this before they watch the episode, which is I don't know what are you doing here.
If you are, go back and watch the episode, and then come back and comment when you see what we're talking about, or when you hear what we're talking about.
And anybody else, anybody who has seen it knows what I'm talking about. I was just like, I don't want to. I don't know.
But you know, those type of competitions still exist. Actually, where I lived in Winter Garden, I stumbled upon one of those competitions that was just like in a nearby park, and it's not like
I don't know the
fueled by
exactly
racism or anything, but it's the same damn thing. And I was just like, this is such a weird thing to have a competition for.
Yeah,
it was so bizarre in any context. It's just such a weird thing to be a competition. I don't know. So these exhibitions were like absolutely ridiculous. I mean, we've touched on a few of them here now. Do you think that they were just gross incompetence, or do you think it was intentional cruelty?
No, I don't think it was intentional cruelty. Like even like the phrenology thing, which is, I mean, like thinking that you could tell things about people based on the bumps on their skull. I think that they...
Well, I was going to say, can you explain phrenology? Because we don't talk about... That's one of those words I feel like people don't necessarily know what that is, and we don't actually go into that.
It was well, you should know. It was a 19th century fad, so you were around back then?
Yes, I was around back then. I am a vampire. Yep.
And it was essentially... I don't know the roots of it, but that there were places on the skull itself where if you had certain features of the skull, they directly correspond. Like they didn't understand how the brain worked or personalities, so they thought that features on the skull, the bone of the skull, were directly correlated to personality traits, intelligence, et cetera, et cetera.
Like your brain was shaping your skull kind of thing?
I don't... something like that. But that it was a predictor of like if you had certain bumps on certain places in the skull, that was a predictor for being smart or stupid or... and it was utilized in racist fashion because that they claim that there was African Americans or Africans had certain features on the skull that were specific to them, which might mean that they're a separate race. But it was practiced on everybody. I don't think that it was purely like racist or cruel. I think that they genuinely believed it, even though they were wrong. So I mean, I don't know. I don't know the motivations of any of the people involved in anthropology days, but I'm assuming that the cruelty of it is in and of itself, but it's the same way that like a lot of people see zoos as cruel to the animals. And even if you only half agree, these were basically human zoos.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's where I think a lot of it is. I mean, I personally, I think it's all incompetence because I think that they just didn't know any better. That does not excuse it in any way, shape, or form.
no.
But I just think that it probably wasn't intentional cruelty because that was just they had like no education outside of this. So it was just kind of that absolute incompetence. Whereas if something like this was taking place now it would be intentional cruelty because like we fucking know better.
Well, I guess that's hard to say too, is like, I mean, during slavery, there were abolitionists. So there were people around who knew that it was cruel and shouldn't be.
We did know better.
So
yeah.
like, I don't know, but I think that, I mean, a lot of evil has been committed in the name of science, which is an unfortunate truth. And sometimes, I mean, some of our best leaps forward have been based on cruelty towards human or animals. Medications.
Still animal testing and things like that. I mean, people have made companies have made strides in not including animal testing in cosmetics and, you know, things that aren't necessarily life-threatening or life-saving. But animal testing has to happen
for medication.
With, like, medications.
Yeah. But I think that this was, it's hard to say, right? Because I think some things that we have have only been made possible with a certain amount of cruelty, but typically not towards humans. But like, let's say if, like, for instance, like phrenology turned out to be true, it's not, but like if they had been correct and then we were able to predict who was going to be a psychopath at birth, that'd be really valuable. So they went down that road and it took them longer. And then they probably had, I mean, I think that in all honesty, there was some like, it was a way to separate people into categories, which is always very convenient for people of a certain sort of ideology. And there's ideology should be separated from science at all times. And
100%, yeah.
And it usually, or not usually, it can be difficult to be, and especially in the past, you would sort of, as for something like that, you would arrive at your conclusion and then work backwards. When it's kind of the opposite. So I don't know, maybe some people were just racist and didn't believe it and thought it would be fun to be cruel. I think that the people involved in that genuinely thought that they were probably engaged in some sort of science or anthropology, just study insane. Of other people's.
Well, yeah, and that kind of goes into my next point where the actual marathon itself, which is the focus of the episode, what was his name? James Sullivan designed it as an experiment, basically, on what the human body can withstand, which is, I just don't understand how that got past organizers. Like, yeah, this is going to be a competition, but also we're experimenting on these people.
It didn't get past organizers. He was the organizer.
I just don't, oh God. So obviously a dehydration experiment, which in today's society now, I mean, for marathons, you have like gel packs of, what is it called? Not hydration, electrolytes. You have like gel packs that there's like all of these different things that you have to do in marathon, because obviously marathons are punishing things. And this one, it was literally just like 2 barrels of water, which
on the hardest part of the day.
I mean, if you stop
in August,
the hottest part of the day, and if you stopped at that barrel of water, obviously that would affect your time as well. So it just sounds illegal. Do you know what I mean? Like, it just sounds crazy.
I mean, it probably would be today, but I mean, more than anything, it sounds made up, which is sort of why I ended the episode with the, you don't have to exaggerate.
But it is kind of in that
for it to be absurd.
Yeah.
Sometimes it just is, and this just is.
Well, it is kind of that idea of like the pursuit of progress at any cost, whether it is human life or it's just like. Do you think we've moved away from that, or do you think that is something that is still like that idea of the pursuit of progress at any cost? I mean, I'm sure there are some people out there who still believe in that.
Well,
I don't know. That's a weird, like.
Well, no, I just think it's shifted.
I don't know, like an ethics conversation, I suppose.
Well, I think that like circling back to AI, I think that we're still actively involved in progress, and we just found a way progress at any cost. We've just found a way to do it without involving humans and pushing it forward.
Yeah. But well, it does involve humans, whether it is peripherally or, maybe it's not directly, but indirectly, I think it involves humans.
No, I mean, I think that we're progress at any cost. I mean, anytime that there's it depends on how you define progress, but anytime that there's a catastrophe based on best laid plans for people who think, I mean, AI may be a prime example of a very similar thing to the dehydration thing, where everyone's got good intentions and think that it's progress, and then it blows up in our face, and it's only with retrospect that you were like, well, that was a fucking mistake.
I just don't know how anybody wouldn't think that is a mistake from the jump. Like, yeah, we're going to make these people run this in the hottest part of the day, the hottest part of the year, and we're not going to give them any water because their bodies will perform better. Like, says fucking who? Who hears that and is like, oh yeah, that sounds all right.
Well, I mean, hey, there's only one way to find out.
Oh, God. Yeah, I suppose. I don't know. Like, this has to get past people, right? Like, people have to agree on this sort of thing. There's some sort of committee, or I suppose there wouldn't have been.
Well, and think about, I mean, the leaps and bounds of science and medicine in the last 120 years have been, and between 1904 and today, our understanding of just about everything about the world is probably 1,000 times better than our understanding of the world between 1904 and the 1,000 years before that. Things have progressed at like an exponential rate. So I don't know. I think it was with the best of intentions, and he was trying to prove something, or maybe that was a part of a larger trend in human physiology that they were trying to experiment on. Or I mean, I don't know what the motivations were. I don't know. I don't think it was just like, I'm going to see how many of these people running the marathon I can kill. I think that it was probably with good intentions, but I mean, good intentions are not enough, or are not all that's required. But I don't know. I don't know if unless he was a sadist, I don't think it was just an exercise in cruelty. It was just completely misguided and very, very wrong.
It is really just like going through life with the confidence of a mediocre white man. Like,
well, there's no need to be.
It's just one of those things where, like, yeah, I'm right.
Yeah, I prefer we not involve racism here, though. I mean, it's a little racist. If you want to.
I'm not calling you mediocre. Damn.
Why'd you have to say white? I mean. That's just a little racist.
Because it's true.
And man.
Well,
Sexist.
That's true. Sexist, yeah, I suppose. Would you go to a World's Fair today? Like, because I asked, because technically they do still happen. So there's one like happening in Osaka right now, actually.
I'm sort of shocked. I think you know me. I don't like to spend more than 6 minutes in a grocery store, Scarlett. Do you think I'd go to a World's Fair? What do you think? Why don't you answer this yourself?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, I suppose.
No.
Do you think there's like a need for? I mean, I don't know. Like, what are They get no press coverage, at least in this part of the world. They get no press coverage. I didn't know that the World's Fair still happened.
Well, it used to. I mean, I've like the what was it? 1880. The Chicago World's Fair is very. I mean, there have been times where it's been like. I mean, like. AC current electricity.
Yeah, the Chicago World's Fair was huge. And wasn't that like 1873 or something?
I think it was
like
the 1880s, but I mean, sometimes it has been. It used to be before it was so easy to disseminate information. It did used to be like, it did used to show off genuinely extraordinary progress. I mean, the Eiffel Tower was built as part of a World's Fair. So, which was like,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was built on the grounds of the World's Fair in whatever year that World's Fair was. And it was supposed to be a temporary part of the World's Fair, and then it became sort of iconic. But it was showing off how you could use that much steel, assemble that much steel that quickly. Because it was done in, I don't know, 18 months or something insane like that. So there have been times when it wasn't so prevalent, where announcements were made and newspapers were delivered overnight, where people could come and see like like not always horrifically racist, misguided, stupid things that wouldn't last, like things that were actually groundbreaking would be shown off at World's Fairs. So I think it's less necessary now, unless you like to use porta potties.
In Japan, I don't think you'd be using porta potties. I think they probably have like robots that run around and just like wipe your ass for you or something. I don't know.
Well, I know, whatever it is. I mean, even porta potties are a step up from the 19th century, right, Scarlett?
It's true. Well, yeah, not wrong.
You're just
Well, if
digging
you
a
want to
hole
go
and
to
Japan.
if you well, I also live in Central America, so digging a hole is still done here.
Okie dokie.
But if you want to go to Japan, to Osaka, it's going on until October 13th this year, 2025. It's not called the World's Fair anymore, though. It's called Expo 2025 Osaka.
It's probably not even called
So
that.
it's the world,
Probably actually called something in
the
Japanese.
World Expo now. Well, no, I think it is actually called that. It just happens to be taking place in Japan. But instead of being called the World's Fair, it's called the World Expo now. And this one is the theme is Designing Future Society for Our Lives, and it focuses on global collaboration to address challenges and build a brighter future, showcasing innovations in technology, sustainability, and lifestyle.
How would a Japanese person pronounce it, though?
I just gave them a free advert. Did you hear that? I shall not do that. Thank you very much. Speaking of racism.
And people,
but
do
it
you
features,
have any, no, you're right.
Features,
I missed that. Do you have any idea how much she gets paid for that? And that was free. She just did it.
So much. You're welcome. Yeah. It features a giant wooden architectural structure called the Grand Ring and pavilions from numerous countries, organizations, and corporations. So no walk through colon. So basically, it's a no for me.
Oh, that's shitty.
I'm not gonna go. I'm not gonna go unless I get a walk through colon. So
that was a killer joke that you just stepped on. Not even a titter.
I know. I.
Let's take that again.
I did hear it, and then I just kind of blew past it. Let's take that again. Okay. You know what? I'm not going to go because there's no colon. So
no walk through colon.
Holds nothing for me.
Oh God, I got to rewrite your.
No walk through
I got to rewrite your setup to the joke. Do it again. I know what the problem is. All right, ready? Quiet, settle, and whenever you're ready.
No, you just say action.
And action.
Well, I'm not going to go because there's no walk through colon. So.
Well, that's shitty. There we go.
Rim shot.
Clean. I might actually.
Hey.
I'll put a sound effect right there. I'll put a dun.
Oh, all right. So going back to the marathon and the absolute just.
Clusterfuck.
Fucking, like we said, clusterfuck, dumpster fire that it was. How did that kind of reflect? I mean, we kind of talked about it a little bit. How did it reflect what was going on sort of culturally and globally at the time? I mean, I guess I'm focusing on the idea of, I feel like this was really the birth of American exceptionalism and nationalism. I feel like it was like really when that started to heat up.
I don't know if it was the birth, but it was a fomentation of it. I mean, it was coming after the Louisiana Purchase and Manifest Destiny and expansionism and eventually taking over the continent.
It was just like,
it was,
I feel like that was when Americans really started to feel like hot shit.
It was underway. I mean, I think it had an effect that sort of cascaded through the 20th century. But
What is time? Time is a construct.
Probably. I mean, it sort of laid the foundation of that. It was like sort of iterative, but I think that, I don't know. I think that the marathon is sort of the focus, sort of a name only, because it allowed. I think if the only absurd stuff that had happened was directly related to the story of the marathon, I don't think I would have been as interested. But it's the surrounding context of all the absurd things that happen, and a little bit of history that I think is interesting about the reformation of the Olympics, why the marathon exists in the first place, because of the legend of marathon and the defeat of the Persians, and
Pheidippides,
American sensibility, and all of that. I think that the surrounding context is interesting, and And then I for whatever reason, I always have, or I try to have some sort of a unique approach, at least since The Man Who Died Twice. I want to adopt a style, and for whatever reason, just in my head, I saw this as there's not a single piece of video in the entire episode. It's all still images, and I'm basically ripping off Ken Burns. And
You actually came up with the Ken Burns idea like super early.
I just saw it.
I feel
in
like
my
it was
head.
when I think you hadn't even written the script. And when you were even like, you had the idea to do it, you were like, yeah, I guess I could kind of do this in like a Ken Burns style. And I was like, who?
It's an interesting challenge, just because I think Ken Burns is and the reason that it's like, even in like editing software, there's something called the Ken Burns effect, which is basically a crop and zoom effect. And the reason that it's called
it's basically your screensaver, like the default screensaver that you get on your on your computer.
But he sort of he didn't create it, but sort of pioneered it as a way for like he's done documentaries on like the Civil War and things like that, where he's mostly dealing with still images. So to give the images some life, he'll zoom in on an image and show you just a portion of it, and then as there's narration or quotes that happen over it, he'll pan and zoom out to like settle on the part of the photo that's being referenced, and it gives some energy to otherwise static images. And so at first I was like, well, I could have a little bit of that, but I could also have close up of runners' feet and video recreations, or using stock footage the way that I do in the rest of them. And I was like, well, what would be an interesting challenge is to assemble however many, I don't know, probably 150 individual still images and use the Ken Burns style without it getting old, and never having the interesting challenge of that is never having the same, like, if like one image it starts wide and zooms in on a figure, you can't cut to a new image where it starts wide and zooms in. So you have to go like maybe from the corner to the middle, because otherwise you're just going to be repeating. So it's sort of an interesting challenge.
These are things that I wouldn't notice. That's so interesting. I really thought when you said this style at first, I was like, oh, I feel like it's going to be boring. But it's not.
No, I think that it works effectively, and it's an interesting challenge. It's more challenging than for me, at least, than for video. And obviously I really worked my ass off. I would say that at least 90 to 95% of these images are all real, and then I use some generative stuff either for comedic effect,
AI,
either for comedic effect, or because I wanted to try to show something that occurred, or I even this isn't AI, but it's utilizing AI, but there are pictures that exist that, because of when they were taken, they're such low resolution that they don't display right. So I would use a filter, like an AI filter, to smartly enhance the image. So some of them are real images that have just been upscaled, so they look better.
That's like AI being used for good, though.
Yeah, I mean, but so there's, a couple of like things that like I don't feel bad about generating, because I'm not trying to pretend that they're part of it. Like some like
you mean the carrot is not real?
Well, there's that, but then there's also like motivational, like things in the style of like motivational posters that are used. Like, I don't think that anyone, well, I'm not going to say that, people are very stupid, but anyone that I would have any respect for would think
careful what you say there.
Would think that I'm referring to a real thing. It's obviously part of a joke, but
yeah.
But thankfully, there's a fair amount of documentation for the race and the people involved and the World's Fair at large. But I don't know, that style, I just thought how funny it would be to... Ken Burns is a very dry, very good, but very dry documentarian and storyteller. And even though he's got energy, and I've watched Ken Burns documentaries and I enjoy them, I thought it would be a really funny juxtaposition to use his style exclusively with the absurdity and the tone of the narration.
Yeah.
And I think it was it was a lot of work, but it was an experiment that I think ultimately pays off. I mean, I guess that's subjective, but I think so. I think it made it funnier.
As do I.
Than recreations.
Yeah. So, is there anything that you think if we were doing kind of, well, no, I suppose we do still do a World's Fair, but if we were still taking part in like odd nationalist events, in your giant male brain,
I thought you were
what
going
do
to say
you
something
think
else.
would be? Hey, what do you think would be an odd nationalist event that the U.S. would participate in today?
Anytime Trump has a speech? What do you mean? What would be?
I'm thinking about like something that would be like in the how they had like the butter sculptures of William McKinley, or you know what I mean, like those weird where it's like very hyper specific to that nation. Do you can you think of anything that would be, for me? It would be like I don't know, like NASCAR racing while also shooting a target with like a sawn off shotgun or something.
Oh, you
I don't
mean
know, like
events?
while drinking a natty light.
You mean Olympic events?
Yeah, like an
Oh,
Olympic event that would be like specific to the US.
um,
Or something that would be like, I don't know, like how they were showcasing the electric chair. Something that is like relevant to today in the US that would be like showcased in some way.
maybe like the 100-meter high infant mortality dash or something like that.
I shouldn't have asked you that question. Let's move on. Okay.
Well, all right. Let me go again. I think I'm at a disadvantage because I don't actually know what events are included, but I mean specific.
Well, it doesn't have to be. It's not like ice skating or something. It could just be just like a nationalist event that would be like specific to the U.S. to be like, hey, look at us, you know?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess maybe like
It could go one of two ways. Like you could either go like really hyper serious, because the US is not all bad. So you could go really hyper serious with it and be like, oh, you know, the advancements in this or whatever. Or you could just be like, you know, Billy Bob with his belly sticking out, drinking a natty light while shooting
we call it like
somebody.
the 50-50.
I don't know.
50-50 race where half of the people do their best to actually run the race and the other half of the people run directly into a lake and drown, but think that it's for their own benefit, like that's in their best interest. That seems pretty.
I think that's great.
That seems
Yeah,
pretty
we'll
American.
Leave it at that. We'll leave it at that. That'd be great.
Like the people running probably won't make it because they're not really up to it, but the other half of the people voluntarily drown themselves and think it's in their own best interest.
You know what's odd and sort of funny is this actually kind of leads into my next point, where would you classify yourself as like a realist? Because I've often called you a pessimist and you've said that's not correct.
Well, I'm a pessimist. I mean, I'm a realist.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I would say that realism is usually pessimistic because the
Well, as a realistic pessimist, I guess, do you see this race as kind of a microcosm of society? And in that, I mean, like, basically it went from improvisation to cruelty to stupidity, and then people still insisted that it was a success. Like,
I think I think what you just said is the American dream in a nutshell. Like, no matter what
that's kind of how I feel as well.
Whatever it says on the Statue of Liberty, we've abandoned those ideals for a long time ago. We abandoned that. So I think what you just said, the order of the words that you just said in a row are sort of what probably should be on our flag. I mean, I think that there's such a glut of unjustified pride, unwarranted, unearned, and unjustified pride, sort of like full circle, sort of like sports fans.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, then what do you think is more dangerous? Do you think repeating history's failures is more dangerous, or sanitizing them so they just don't look like failures at all?
You should never sanitize history. It should be like, I think that's...
Well, that's happening a lot now.
I know, but I think that that's incredibly dangerous, is like, even if it makes you or people you identify with or people you want, or your nation, your ethnic group, your social group, I think it's especially important to stare it right in the goddamn face and never to sanitize it, because
Yeah.
That's the only way to learn anything. So I think that,
I agree.
and this episode is funny, but I mean, even the things that and to be frank, I didn't want to show indigenous peoples climbing trees for sport. I didn't want to show that. But
we gave it away now.
But I also thought in more than any other episode, and just as an experiment to see if we could strike this tone, funny came first in this episode.
Yeah.
If it was funny, that was more important to me than the accuracy of the story, the tone. My operating question was, with the juxtaposition of the music, the voiceover, the narration, and the images, is it funny? And if I would sacrifice the history or showing that image for a joke, and I think just showing the word "nope" in huge black letters on a white background is funnier than the actual image. So
I don't think the actual image would be funny at all. I think this is kind of one of those things where if you don't laugh, you'll cry.
Yeah.
Because it is so cruel. Like, so much of this is so cruel.
But beyond that, I mean, we got to make fun of, or we got to mock the English British society,
the French
Americans.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that we're doing our part to, those people who were taken advantage of and shown some cruelty are the people who get away scot-free in this episode. So
yeah, you are very passionate about history. So you fixed it.
It's done now. I fixed it, Scarlett. I did it. You did it. It's better now.
It's sanitized. No. If you were a future historian looking back on, let's say, the lost century, what do you think will be identified as our 1904 marathon? Like the thing that we, maybe not now, because so many things have been exposed now, but something that was thought of as noble, but in 100 years will look like barbarism.
Maybe that film adaptation of Cats where they had the CGI buttholes.
I think that's already done.
I haven't seen the movie, and I hate Andrew Lloyd Webber.
I don't know that was ever thought as noble. You hate Andrew Lloyd Webber?
He's a hack.
No.
He's a hack.
Oh. No. I love Phantom of the Opera.
He ripped off Pink Floyd for the main riff of Phantom of the Opera. So even that, he's not original with. But
I mean, what music is original? Let's be honest.
Well, if you got to choose Phantom of the Opera or the Pink Floyd song Echoes to listen to, choose Floyd always. But serious answer, what would be our? I mean, I don't know. I don't know sporting events, but like disastrous, like. Because it would have to be something.
Yeah, but something that is seen as like something that someone in the future would look back on and be like, "What the actual fuck? Like this is not noble. It's cruel."
I mean, Scarlett, the answer is so obvious, but we don't want to get into. I mean, there's only one answer it could possibly be. You mean last century, 1900 to 1999.
Yeah.
Crystal Pepsi.
That's the one you're sticking with, eh?
That's funny.
I mean, obviously it could get deeper. There is one glaring one. Well, there's several glaring, horrible atrocities that are happening that are being done in the name of being noble. But
the way that you phrased it was the last century, so we could do 1900 and 1999. Yeah. What about, does something spring to mind for you?
Well, I don't know about lost calendar century. I think I was just kind of talking about like 1925 to 2025 kind of thing was what I was really thinking of, because I was trying to go forward from the marathon.
I mean, there's been I don't know that there's been anything on that level that's like so like in your face and like as like so counter. I think what's interesting about this is that the espoused ethics and design and motivation of the Olympics, everything about this, the Olympics in general and this specific event are set in total opposition to the stated goals of the Olympics. So I think that's why it's interesting. Like it's like I don't know. It's like having a demonstration about fire safety where a whole building burns down. Like, it's completely antithetical to what it is that you're setting out to attempt to do. And I mean, I can't think of a specific example, because I would say in the field of human experience and achievement, those happen all the time, just not on this scale.
Yeah, I think there's also more of a hard line now, like really thinking about this question, like something that we see as noble, but in the future will be looked at as barbarism. Like, I think there's such a hard line now with these things that even if there are some people who think of it as noble, there are other people that will be like, no, this is an absolute atrocity.
Well, I can answer a slightly different version of your question. Is there might be things that we're wrong about that we can't know right
Oh, I'm sure there are.
But my point
that's
is
science, right?
Yeah, but my point is that you and I might really believe in something right now that we find ourselves in the position 100 years ago or 100 years from now of other people having a conversation about how could they believe that? How cruel. But you and I are maybe.
I think that's kind of more of what I was.
Yeah, you and I might be sitting here without knowing it, like the people who attended anthropology days and thought that it was a really good and noble thing. We just don't know yet. That's a little. I mean, I don't. Like I said, if there were people who were abolitionists and believed that all men were truly created equal, then you can't say that there was nobody who knew better than to be racist.
Yeah.
So it's not something like that, but it could be something more fundamental to the nature of the world that is commonly understood right now. And I don't know. Let's say I could throw out a wild example that at some point we take really drastic measures to reduce carbon emissions, and unintended consequences of that is that the global economy collapses. And then in 150 years, we find out that climate change was not actually man-made.
Yeah.
That's unlikely based on all the science. I would say improbable, bordering on impossible. But based on the science that we have at the time, then a reduction in that sort of gas emissions and climate change is going to be pretty devastating to humanity as a whole. And so, taking the steps that are recommended by people who espouse that and who say we already passed the point of no return, if we do that and it causes really severe economic impacts, like some people on the other side of the issue argue, and then there's better science than 150, and we're just not smart enough right now to tell the difference, then there was an economic collapse for no reason, and we should have been focusing on something else. But I believe in climate change, and I believe that it's man-made, and I believe that we should, corporations, not individuals, but corporations should start rolling things back.
Agreed.
Because even if, it doesn't matter. But that's kind of an extreme example where
me drinking out of a cup made of corn is not helping anything.
But we could find that's an extreme example where you and I, or people who believe in climate change and that we should do our best to strive reasonably towards green energy, just for self-preservation, because the Earth will be fine. It's people who are fucked. The Earth will keep right on spinning, but maybe that's a sort of a tangible example of we're not doing this or voting on that bill or voting for people who are going to sign that bill because we're being cruel to the future and knowing that by doing that it's going to cause a global economic collapse because our infrastructure can't support it, and to have done it for no reason in particular because it wasn't man-made climate change. We'll get mocked for being stupid 200 years in the future and possibly cruel, but we're sitting here now and we know we can know is what we know. So, I mean, I think something like that is maybe the best example, but it's you only have that in that case with the benefit of hindsight. We can't do it right now.
I think that's how a lot of these things. Yeah. I think you can only or any of this, I think, can only happen with the benefit of hindsight. But I don't know, but I would imagine that the people who were involved in the 1904 marathon at the time did not think of it as as insane as we look back upon it.
I mean, and probably some, like I said, like there were abolitionists and anti-racists all over. I mean, before the Civil War, from the founding of the country, there were people who wanted to exclude slavery from the Constitution, and it wasn't voted in. So it's not like there weren't people who didn't know. So there might have been people at anthropology days at the World's Fair in St. Louis at the time who thought, this is horrific. Somebody needs to stop this.
Yeah.
They just didn't happen to be the people who were running it. So I think it's only with the benefit of hindsight. Well, I don't know. You've been around since the 19th century. What did you think when you were there?
I have,
You're better positioned to answer this than me.
When I walked through the colon, no.
I'm gonna soundbite that with no context.
That's it. When I walked through the colon, boy, I tell you what.
With
my funnel cake in hand.
Were my arms tired?
I'm Layla Lawrence.
And I'm Dan Lauer.
And this has been Possibly Not.